3 months after an out-of-state arrest, a fugitive wanted for murder now back in Bexar County. So what took so long? Plus, leaders in Alamo Heights approve expanding a dinner club in a residential area. You're going to hear what people in the neighborhood think about that decision. But first tonight, finally, after a 3-year-long battle, the Uvalde CISD has released records from the Robb Elementary School shooting. As you know, 19 students and 2 teachers were killed when a gunman opened fire at the school back in 2022. And since then, we've had so many questions about the shooter, the school district's police department, and also whether it was trained to handle school shooters. Tonight, after a court battle between us, other media members, and the Uvalde CISD, we finally have more answers. Ardela Ibarra is reading through those documents, and this evening I spoke with her about what she's found so far. These are 3,500 pages of documents that you've been pouring through all evening. What are the key takeaways so far?
Yeah, so from what we've been able to see so far, the 3 top takeaways. Number 1, we've learned more about the shooter, Salvador Ramos. We also got a look at the operations plan, which there's a lot of holes in that. We can talk about that. And we also learned that a security company that specializes in locks visited the school just weeks before the shooting.
Okay, so let's start with the shooter. What are we learning about him?
Yeah, so Salvador Ramos, we know that he had at least 22 disciplinary incidents between middle school and high school. Kind of slows down around his sophomore year because it looks like that's when he stopped really going to school on a regular basis. And he withdrew in October 2021, so that's several months before the shooting because of poor academic performance, according to those records. Some of the things that he was getting in trouble for, he was getting into fights with teachers, he was using homophobic slurs, he had issues with other students. And another thing that we learned from those records, specifically with his health information, well, honestly, we didn't learn much because that portion is redacted, so we don't know if there were any issues with mental health or any other issues that would be noted in a document like that.
Okay, so how about the Uvalde CISD Police Department?
Yeah, so 2 things with that we've been able to learn. 1, the newest thing is about the operations plan. Much of it is redacted. It's about a 30 to 40 page slideshow. So we didn't get to learn much about the lockdown procedures that the district has. We didn't get to learn about the evacuation procedures as well as fire drill. We also did get to see more about the active shooter training. This is something that we had actually reported back in June of 2022, but that Uvalde CISD actually had active shooter training at Uvalde High School. So that's where they learned things like preventing, the phrasing that they use is preventing the killing and preventing the dying. And that training happened in March of 2022, so just months before that shooting.
And finally, as we wrap up, what about the security company?
Yeah, so this was an email that was sent just a couple of weeks after the shooting, and it was from one of the sales managers of the security company that specializes in locks. And basically, the email talked about how the security manager felt very sorry for what had happened because they had actually been at the school district in April, so just a couple weeks before the shooting, looking, and they said that they were actually going to offer some of the services that were going to be presented at a school board meeting in May.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And to be clear, we're still pouring through these documents right now, so watch out for updates throughout the week. As we continue learning information, we'll keep relaying that to you. So we're also still waiting on other records from the county of Uvalde. Also today, we learned that a former Uvalde CISD officer charged with abandoning and endangering a child in connection with the shooting is asking a judge to move his trial out of Uvalde County. That's Adrian Gonzalez. His attorneys argue that because of so much media attention that he's received, they're afraid that their client isn't going to get a fair trial.
This young man is in school, has been in school, has never before been arrested. He doesn't have any disciplinary problems at school.
Instead of starting school today, a 13-year-old accused in the shooting death of his brother was in court this afternoon. His family has been begging a judge to release him. The teen faces a manslaughter charge for the shooting death of his brother, Daniel Cáceres, back on July 25th. Investigators say the 13-year-old was handling a gun when it accidentally went off. If the teen gets released, he would be in his grandmother's custody. Judge William Cruz Shaw gave the family strict instructions when it comes to that. First, the grandmother's house has to be searched so that there cannot be any guns or ammunition in that house. Secondly, the teen has to begin counseling immediately. And third, he cannot get in trouble while he's in juvenile detention. The teen, by the way, still in custody, and he's supposed to be back in court on August 25th. After 3 months, a fugitive accused of murder now back in Bexar County. You remember that back in mid-May, authorities in Kansas found 22-year-old Ronnie J. Salas and then arrested him for a murder charge in San Antonio. But Salas wasn't brought back to Texas until last week. Tonight, the victim's mother in this case sat down with the night team's Avery Everett, and she's asking why it took so long to get the suspect here.
We all still carry him.
Ashes hang around Tony Brantley's neck. This is a piece of her son, Andre, and a reminder of what happened.
I'll never be the same, ever again.
24-year-old Andre Montera was shot and killed on the southwest side in April. He was picking up a coworker before his night shift when the shooting happened.
My son was unarmed in his seatbelt in the car, pulling away.
The man accused of pulling the trigger is 22-year-old Ronnie J. Salas.
We've been covering this story for almost 4 months, so here's a timeline of exactly what we know. The shooting happened on April 23rd. Nearly a month later in May, we confirmed that Salas was arrested in Kansas. But it wasn't until last Wednesday, August 6th, that we learned he was back here in Bexar County.
We're already suffering from the loss, then we suffer from the system.
Tony says after the extradition papers were written, it took weeks for them to be processed at both the county level and the state level.
What did that look like for you?
It looked like nobody cared. I was not going to let Texas take so long that this guy got to walk out the doors in Kansas. I just wasn't.
The DA's office told us on Monday this case with Salas had been indicted, but said they could not comment further on the extradition timeline. Salas's bond is currently set at $350,000.
Where do you find the strength every morning to fight for justice?
Because I've learned living in Bexar County that they're not going to fight for him. My grand boys, all they got is a locket with some ashes in it. That's all they got of their daddy.
Months later, this mom is still fighting, calling for clarity in the system and calling for accountability in her son's case. Avery Everett, KSAT 12 News.
So Salas is supposed to be back in court in the beginning of November. The governor's office says that 3 months for an extradition process is, quote, not unusual given the legal requirements and logistics that they need for a transfer. One person dead after a drive-by shooting. So that's what the scene looked like at the intersection of Coronado Avenue and Cerralbo Street. San Antonio police say that officers were nearby conducting a traffic stop when they heard some gunshots. So then when they got to that scene, they found a person on the street with several gunshot wounds. SAPD investigators say that this appeared to be a drive-by shooting, but they haven't yet found a suspect. Police did, however, find a suspect or arrested a suspect after a shooting that killed one person and injured 2 others. San Antonio police say a 40-year-old man shot 3 people in the head at a complex on Altitude Street near Loop 410 and Highway 90 last night. Investigators say the shooter then took off in a truck with 3 children inside. Those kids weren't hurt. One of the 3 people who was shot in the head died at the hospital. The other 2 victims, they remain in critical condition tonight, and San Antonio police are saying that the man who died was the suspect's son. Police arrested the suspect. That right there is video of him being booked into jail earlier today. We also want to take this opportunity to remind you that if you or someone you know is dealing with a domestic violence situation, please get help. Scan the QR code on your screen because that'll bring you to a full list of free available resources. Tonight, Alamo Heights City Council passing what's called a special use permit, or an SUP, so that a private dining club can expand into a residential area. Alamo Heights has been working to expand the Argyle for more than 3 years. The Texas Biomedical Research Institute owns that club, and people who live next door to it are worried that the construction could hurt public safety by bringing in more traffic.
The aim of this SUP is to ensure that the proposed use does not disrupt the neighborhood's character or quality of life. It's really important that we don't mess up this neighborhood.
Another concern with the vote is that 3 of the 5 city council members are members of the Argyle, and that includes the mayor. Alamo Heights City Council voted 4-1 to approve the SUP.
I can't think of two better reasons to take a strategic pause on this until we have all of the data and can really lay out for our community the costs, the benefits of not only the potential new Spurs arena, but this overall endeavor.
San Antonio Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones isn't backing down. In fact, she's doubling down on her call for another review into Project Marvel. And that's what she focused on in a meeting today. Last week, she asked to pause the project, but most city council members wanted to keep those negotiations going with the Spurs for a new downtown arena. So this afternoon, the city manager told the mayor and the council that he's going to keep talking with the Spurs while also looking into another economic study to help get estimates for the overall cost of the arena and also how much the city could or would contribute. The mayor has been pushing for specifics on those details before moving forward. Two managers with the city housing department used a company under contract with the city for personal home improvement projects. And one of those leaders was given a steep discount on foundation work done at her property. And that's according to records obtained by KSAT Investigates. Before these investigations, the Neighborhood and Housing Services Department didn't have a rule in place that banned that kind of behavior.
It makes me wonder, how long has this been going on?
Tomorrow on the Nightbeat, KSAT Investigates takes a deeper look at the financial relationship between the construction company and the city housing agency. Stay right where you are. Still ahead, leaders in Kirk County want to focus on recovering from the July 4th floods. The question is how, and we're going to tell you what they think their plan is so far. Plus, for the first time since those deadly floods, the mayor of Ingram is speaking, and he's going to tell us more about the plan for a new flood warning system coming up after the break. Welcome back. A new flood warning system is in the works for one city in the Hill Country. Today, the Ingram City Council approved a $160,000 disaster siren system. Zaria Oates explains how it works. She also spoke with the mayor of Ingram for the first time since the July 4th floods.
Approved $167,000 today.
This is the money Ingram City Council approved on Monday.
All in favor?
Aye. It's expected to cover 3 emergency warning systems in Ingram after the deadly July 4th floods.
We never had a flood like this before, and we lost a life. We don't want any more loss of life.
A big question for the mayor of Ingram is, will these sirens cost taxpayers?
No, ma'am.
City Councilman Ray Howard says Senator Pete Flores has the money covered.
I talked to Senator Pete Flores prior to the meeting, telling him what I want to do. And he said, well, we can, let me know. We can go through some entrepreneurs that would gladly give the money to a cause like this.
Howard's push for a better system comes from the lack of a code red alert.
And it came down that it had to wait for a manager to approve it.
The councilman referring to this request and delay.
Is there any way we can send a code red out to our Hunt residents asking them to find higher ground?
10-4 standby. We have to get that approved with our supervisor.
40 minutes. Could have had everybody out of the RV parks.
That's the goal for these sirens.
An RV park that was hit pretty hard. This is where I was told the majority of the deaths were located. And so, yeah, we've got one right here, right in the middle of that.
Are they going to hear a voice? Are they going to hear just a loud siren? What does that look like with the system?
The sirens will go off in the city. At that same time, the Know Now app will also push out an alert and tell them why the sirens are going off. But the sirens are also voice capable, so the police chief, he can take over the sirens with a live microphone.
Gordon says once the money is sent, it will take about 7 weeks to install the new system. Zaria Oates, KSAT 12 News.
So Kirk County facing a multi-million-dollar budget gap after the July 4th floods. But Kirk County Judge Rob Kelly's proposed budget is going to keep the tax rate flat this year. The county would, however, tap into $11 million from different funds, and that would help cover flood damage without a tax hike, at least for now. Judge Kelly says that this is a short-term fix. Some revenue sources aren't going to be available next year, like the FEMA funds, which are also going towards repairs.
$11 million translates into right at 17 cents, I think, on the tax rate.
Kirk County commissioners will discuss the budget again on Wednesday, and they're expected to vote on that budget in 2 weeks. Now let's take you outside. 89 degrees. All right, doesn't look too bad out there, but we want to talk about rain chances. And as I recall, you've been saying that they're really going to happen around the afternoons?
Yeah, basically 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. is our primary time frame for potential showers here and there. And I do think we'll have some popping up in the afternoons ahead. Just not everybody's going to get hit. I know the grass is getting pretty crunchy outside and pretty brown out there. This isn't going to be enough to really put a dent in the drought, but just a little bit of action that, we could use here and there. Let's take a look at the chances. And basically daily, every afternoon, from 20 to 30% coverage across south central Texas. Again, main time frame 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. And this is the rest of this week all the way into Saturday as well. And then Sunday and Monday just dry because briefly the heat high is going to settle overhead. Briefly is the key. So let's get into tomorrow. A few little pop-up instability downpours here and there. If you're lucky, some of the most fortunate neighborhoods could get a ½ to an inch. And don't pay close attention to the exact placement of these downpours, just the mere coverage of them and the quantity that could be out there at once. I mean, they could really pop up anywhere on the map between 2 and 8 p.m. We get into Wednesday or tomorrow night, it's quiet. Wednesday morning, quiet. We get into the afternoon, and we could actually have slightly better coverage Wednesday afternoon into the early evening hours. Should that be the case, we'd maybe raise our rain chances a little bit as we get a little bit closer to the Wednesday afternoon time frame. But either way, generally between 20 and 30% coverage in the afternoons. Here's why we're not, making triple digits every day and we actually have rain chances in August. It's because of this weak upper level swirl. Now the heat high, the big blue H, that's over Southern California. Past summers, that has been directly overhead. We've had nothing but sunshine and we were so dry. Different scenario right now in other parts of Texas, actually getting in on some good rainfall as well. I want to take you quickly to Tropical Storm Erin. This is way out in the Atlantic, thousands of miles away. I mean, it's closer to Africa than anywhere else. So this is way out there. Still a tropical storm, but likely to gradually strengthen through the week. Now, the steering winds in the atmosphere should take it pretty much due west. And then at some point by Saturday into Sunday, roughly between Bermuda and the Caribbean, somewhere between Bermuda and the Caribbean. Thereafter, it's pretty uncertain. But what I think helps us out here along the Gulf Coast is that we have a new upper level high. Big Blue H parked right over the northern Gulf. And that right there should block out any hurricane activity. And I think the most likely scenario would be some kind of curvature between the east coast of the U.S. and Bermuda beyond next Saturday, and as it gradually strengthens in its westward track. Now notice the sea surface temperature. 78 degrees is that critical number. You want to be above 78 degrees. And right now it's in water that's like 79 degrees. Then it turns to 80 degrees. But once it gets into this hotter water, that's when it's likely to turn into that major hurricane of at least category 3 by this weekend. 99 today, so we didn't hit 100. 11 triple digit days so far this year. And of course, way behind pace of previous summers, especially 2022. By this time, we had 57 triple-digit days. So 77 in the morning, 90 at noon, 97 the high. I think most of us will be in the mid to upper 90s tomorrow. Mid-90s in the hill country, upper 90s elsewhere. Of course, along the Rio Grande, about 100. And notice those daily afternoon rain chances. Hey, cross your fingers. You could get a quick ½ to an inch, but that's going to be the exception and not the norm.
All right, got it. Thank you. Joe Milton III, not too happy?
No, he's really not. I mean, he's bummed out because the Cowboys lost. Even though it's a preseason game, they still want to win. But Joe Milton III, who's fighting to be Dak's backup, is just unpleased with how he started the game Saturday in Los Angeles. And in high school football, the Lanier Vokes held midnight practice. Coming up.
If I was grading myself, definitely a D, probably a D- if I'm being hard on myself. I just got to settle down early and just make all those throws.
Joe Milton III isn't happy with his slow start in the Cowboys preseason opener in Big Board Sports.
Camping with KSAT, powered by Thomas J. Henry.
After that slow start Saturday in L.A., Joe Milton III just got better as the game went on. He finished the contest going 17 for 29 in the air with 143 yards passing, and this TD toss to Rivaldo Fairweather in the fourth quarter to get the boys within 10 points after Milton found Josh Kelly for a 2-point conversion. Dallas lost the game, though, 31-21, and Milton gave himself a D- for his effort.
Second quarter on, I felt great. I think, the guys around me did a great job as far as just understanding the plays, understanding what we wanted, personnel-wise, scheme-wise, no matter what. I think I need to calm down faster so I can start rolling in the first quarter.
Yeah, just how excited, hyped were you for that first drive? The 3 straight pass plays.
Yeah, I was very excited. I think that's what got me off of my tracks. But I feel like, if I was to go back out there again right now, I'll be able to, settle down faster and make those throws for sure.
Dallas will next host Baltimore Saturday at 6 p.m. The Houston Texans opened up their preseason at the Minnesota Vikings, and they lost 20-10. Davis Mills threw the Texans' lone TD to Braxton Berrios in the first quarter. Now, this game gave the Texans another chance to embrace the swarm mentality introduced by head coach DeMeco Ryans. And swarm means special work ethic and relentless mindset, and the defenders love it.
Like D. Hunt said, suffocate. I think more of like this pressure, like a migraine, like a sinus infection or something, like something that you can't get rid of, something that you gotta just deal with. You gotta go to sleep to get over it.
Just that swarm mentality, like coming to hit. I like hitting. I'm a hard hitter, so just coming to hit, make big plays. Yes, sir.
And the Texans will host the Panthers Saturday at noon at NRG Stadium. Midnight practice is a cool football tradition, and that's what the Lanier Vokes did today as they get ready for more big game coverage. The Vokes went 5-6 last season, advancing to the first round of the playoffs. They went 3-3 in district play. This season, they are predicted to win District 12-5A D2 by Dave Campbell's Texas Football, followed by Burbank, Sam Houston, and Jefferson rounding out the top 4. Now, the Vokes have 16 starters coming back, 8 on each side of the ball. They're ready to go, and they love the midnight tradition.
We pride ourselves in tradition, right? And since we started last year, we're like, we got to continue it. So, but again, our kids work hard, and it's something that's deserving for them. And so we're just glad to put it on for them, and the community's super excited about it as well. So
it was amazing. It's something new that came to the Lanier, and yeah.
Just is it special the community showing up tonight just to support y'all?
Yes, sir, because our community's strong. The West Side's all together, and they show up to every game, every celebration like this.
It feels good, it's our second year doing it. The community came out and showed love, and we're thankful for that, and, it feels good.
Lanier will open the season on the road Friday, August 29th at Corpus Christi King at 7 p.m. And it's almost time for the 2025 KSAT Pigskin Classic on Thursday, August 28th at Ferris Stadium. Sotomayor will take on Clark. The game will be broadcast live on KSAT 12 and streamed live on KSAT Plus, the Big Game Coverage app, and KSAT.com. We'll have coverage throughout the week leading up to kickoff, including a 30-minute pregame show starting at 6:30 p.m. Texas football is #1 and currently on the wrong end of a first after the break.